My name is Sibongile Mkhabela. Way back in my young days, I served as General Secretary of the South African student movement known as SASM, and started one of the people who started the Soweto Student Council, SSRC, which followed after the uprising had started. As a result of all of that, I found myself here for about 1.5 years, and this is the experience I want to share. You have to understand the times. You have to understand the 70s. You have to understand the level of consciousness and the responsibility or the activism that came out of Black consciousness teachings. And that, what did that mean? It really meant taking control of our lives. It meant, doesn't matter what apartheid wanted to do, we could re-script this and tell ourselves a different story. And that's what Black consciousness was all about. So from the time of the protests, planning the protest, June 13, 1976, we sit down and we plan the protest. We carry it out on the 16th of June. Subsequent to that, we start planning rolling events and campaigns against the system. And so all those campaigns are then put into our indictment. So our indictment is anything that happened 1975, as we're organizing SASM, through towards the end of 1977, and everything and anything in between.
My name is Nsako Mkhabela. I am a writer, theatre director, social activist, busybody who believes in changing the world, and my mom is Sibongile Mkhabela. So one of my earliest memories is kind of looking at my mother, and she's got a lot of birthmarks, but sometimes I couldn't tell what was a birthmark and what looked like a scar. And I remember asking her, what are those marks? And she was telling me that, oh, that's when I was in prison. And I remember I must have been 3 or 4 years old and kind of going, what, Mom? Prison? What's that about? Tell me where we are in the whole complex of the prison. Where are we here?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Mm-hmm. Where are we? Because actually, I've never been to this part of
like
this block.
Here.
I've never stood here because I was at the very beginning.
Right.
So you're under guard all the time. Mm. So when you are brought here by the guard,
right? The
prison guard.
Oh.
They're quick to put you inside your cell and close. So you don't see anyone. The prisoners they bring in your food and they're trying to make eye contact, and you trying to make eye contact as well. And of course the prison guard is making sure that you're not making any meaningful eye contact, right? Because what they will do is once the food is in, they close the door, they lock it, they check how you're doing, whether you're looking at the food, whatever you're doing, they check on you, then they close it shut. And you hear that noise. So that noise becomes just part of your existence.
The one thing that you always spoke about was the size of the space.
Yes. It drove me nuts.
And you would always talk about
it drove me nuts.
How you could not stretch yourself.
Yeah, the first thing I did was go, this is crazy. This is crazy. Then look at the window. I'm thinking, okay, I want to climb up the window. I'm going to spend my time up there. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't climb up the window. You've got your bucket. How far can your bucket take you? Doesn't take you very far. You know what I mean? So
when you said you have to roll up your blankets and sit on them, right?
Yes.
A day is long. What do you do for the rest of the day?
You do nothing. You do nothing for the rest of the day.
How did you count days? Did you?
On a tick.
Did you do that? That prison, I thought it was like
the tick.
A cartoon thing.
Oh, no, that's very important. The tick.
Yeah.
I still relate to the tick.
Yeah.
I still relate when I see ticks. I'm counting days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Were you allowed a Bible in here? Is this here where you were allowed a Bible?
You had, this place is a bit spooky. I want to get out of it. I want to just get out of it.
The storyteller is by definition someone who has to survive. So when you have a war and you think about who counts and who doesn't, the survivor is important, because the survivor then has the role not just of saying I made it, but of having to tell. They're the ones that get to tell. They're the ones that get to say this happened. It then comes with a great sense of responsibility, because if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to see it, did it fall at all? So if apartheid happens, if genocides happen, if we're not there to see they happened, did they happen at all?
The 1980s still remain the most underdocumented, untold stories of the bridge. So we have a rickety bridge between 76 to 1994. 1994 is miraculous, but we have to, and at some point, storytellers, writers, have to be truthful about the 1980s. If we allow ourselves to forget the experience of the 1980s, we're gonna be there again.
So now I'm curious, how do we begin to fix that bridge and that lack of acknowledgement and honesty about the moment between 76 and 94? How do we fix it in a way that then makes going forward meaningful?
We can't fix it without, in my view, and I might be totally wrong, but I can't see how we fix it without looking at it. That rickety bridge, we need it, but we need to acknowledge it exists.
I'm Sophia Foster Stein.
No, say it again.
I'm Sophia Foster.
No, relax.
I'm Sophia Foster Stein.
And I'm Craig Stein.
And we've been together for 41
What
years.
do you think? Is this a Cartoon Network show that you're introducing?
I started my singing career at a hotel called the Savoy Hotel. And we were not allowed to mix with the patrons. We had to go around the back, up the fire escape, through the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. And every time the cops came, because somehow they knew there were people of color entertaining in this hotel. And as soon as the cops were raiding the hotel, we would go into the kitchen and immediately put on overalls and pretend that we like dishwashers or whatever. These are memories dating back to the early 70s. This is me with Eartha Kitt when she came to South Africa the first time. This was all the Super Bowl at Sun City. They called it the Wheel of Fortune.
My parents were very engaged in the arts and loved music, and my dad was a great jazz fan. And for some reason, they took us to auditions for theatre productions, etc., etc. And there was a play that they were auditioning for called Pippin. So we auditioned. My folks took us there, and we auditioned to the show. Myself and my brother got the part as one of the little kid in the show, and Sophia was in the chorus line.
I did the first multiracial musical in South Africa, done by Des and Dawn Lindbergh. That's me over there. These people were the most amazingly talented people ever. And kyk net daar vir Craig. he used to walk on stage carrying a duck, and every night the duck used to crap on his clothing, on his costume, and he used to walk off stage and used to just to hear quack, quack, to throw the duck to get rid of it.
It wasn't until probably about 10 years later that through show business again, Sophia was doing a show at Sun City, a jazz show. My father said to me, do you want to go and see the show because Sophia's performing? And I said, Sophia, great, because it would be great to see her again. And I went up to Sun City to see the show, and what happened was her car got stuck when we said
My car
goodbye.
wouldn't start, and he pushed my car.
She gave me 10 rand, and she said, give me a call sometime. People of color couldn't attend the same performances as white people.
Yes, there were nights that we performed to whites only, and then there was like one night a week where we performed to people of color. Tell him about the night you justified the laws of the country, and you came to our dressing room. You came to the dressing room of the darkies, and you said, come with us to a restaurant. And I said, you mad? And I'm not allowed to go into any place. It's for whites only. And he got very emotional about it, started crying, and I thought, oh, bugger this. I got into my street clothes and I joined them at this restaurant. We sat at a window, and the pedestrians passing on the street, white and black, stopped and stared at us in this restaurant. They could not believe it. And nobody served us, even though the waiters were of color. They refused to serve us, and
they were told. The waiter actually came to our table and he said, I'm sorry, but I have to let you know that the manager of the restaurant will not allow me to serve
you.
My mom clearly tells me all the time that when I was about 12 years old watching Sophia doing cabaret on stage, I turned around and I said to her, Mom, I'm going to marry that woman.
We got married on the 11th of November, and on the 18th, Sunday the 18th, the newspapers were screaming, Singer's Toy Boy Wedding. Show them the picture.
There's an article over here which says, Fairy Tale for Sophia. And basically this was the billboard of the Sunday Times was Singer's Amazing Toy Boy Wedding. So
emphasis on toy boy.
Yeah, so I've been a toy boy for nearly 40 years. You know, the Group Areas Act and the Mixed Marriages Act, those are the two really big ones. Because you could create a foundation for your relationship from that point onwards. And then, you know, the freedom of movement between 1990 and 1994, where you could walk wherever you wanted to walk. Nobody would give you a stare or an issue.
Or knock you off the pavement.
Yeah, or whatever the case may be, or walk into a pole. But, you know, I think that was
People used to knock into poles. You know why? Because there's the fine Craig walking, and they would be like, you know, breaking their necks, just looking at us. And loop vast in a donderse paal, and, you know.
So I think that's when things started to change in your day-to-day lives, right? And then it just became normal. I mean, you know, you walk into the waterfront today, you're not going to turn your head to any mixed couple. They are just, you
There's
don't
so
even
many.
know who's with who. It doesn't matter anymore. There was no sense of entitlement, you know, at that point in time. You knew you were in a relationship that was considered to be wrong. What I did know, and what I knew to be my truth, was how it felt. The question would be, why are you doing this? Why are you on this path? Do you know it's wrong? Is yes, but this is the way it makes me feel.
I'm Mohammed Musaji. I'm based at the Medi Center in Lenasia. I've been practicing community medicine for the last 25 years. I was born and brought up in this community in Lenasia, and I matriculated in 1986. At the time, I had a focus of wanting to get into the medical field, and I applied to study medicine. Unfortunately, I was not accepted, and there were a lot of reasons were beyond our control. I think one of the issues was that in the 80s, there were probably about 220 places for medical students for the first year. And I think for people of color, about 10% was for them. The journey started with my first qualification in 1991. That was as a pharmacist. You'll actually see my mullet hairstyle, my mustache, because that was in those days. Growing up in apartheid South Africa was disastrous for many people, especially from an education perspective. Because first of all, it did not give opportunities for everybody to be educated and for everybody to have a tertiary qualification. But having said that, those people that were resilient or desperate enough to want to study and achieve the qualification of high order. And it made sure that they were ready for the world and they could literally apply their trade wherever, in any country for that matter. So despite what people had to go through, education was one tool that they used to try and level the playing field. Because when you had a qualification, whether you were a person of color or not, that certificate meant the same at the time. I must say at the outset that growing up, I thought I'm going to be an international sportsman. But at that time, because there was no international sport due to apartheid, that dream unfortunately failed. Interestingly enough, when I was doing my internship as a pharmacist, I had an opportunity to play cricket in the UK. And I got onto the flight. I was supposed to play 3 months of club cricket in one of the minor counties. And I ended up being deported because I didn't have a work permit. At the same time, having grown up in this community, when I qualified, my late dad said something to me that resonates still today. And he said, whatever you do, wherever you go, even if you end up being in sports or specialized, don't forget the community that you've come from. And that's one of the reasons I started my practice in Lenasia, and I'm being here close to 25 years. And I think it gives me a lot of satisfaction. It pleases me a lot to know that you're serving the people that you love the most and you've grown up with. So certainly medicine was one of my passions growing up. But having said that, once I qualified as a doctor and I started practicing family medicine in the community, I still had a passion and a yearning to get involved in the sports field. And maybe as an interest or more as a hobby, I ventured into sports medicine and later into sports management. I've been very fortunate and privileged to marry two of my passions, which is medicine and cricket. And until today, they both play a big part of my life. Sport was a major passion of mine, and literally I played every ball sport there was around. In fact, I excelled, you could say, at cricket and at soccer, but I grew up in an era where there was no normal sport in an abnormal society. The highest level that I achieved playing cricket was provincial cricket. I actually played for Transvaal at the age of 16, and I captained the South African schools team in the 1980s. The funny thing is that there was a time in the late 80s where cricket was played across all colors. I think it was for a year or two, and I remember playing in what they call the Jeff Treadwell Week for primary school children. I had quite a good tournament, and I was offered a scholarship at one of the finest private schools in Johannesburg. And I remember the time, although my father was quite excited about it, there was a knock on the door, and community members came and warned him, remarking that if I considered going to the private school, I would be regarded as a traitor and a sellout, and I'll have to move out of the community. That's the extent to which segregation had affected us, and especially playing sport as well. Playing cricket in the early 1990s, there wasn't much of an opportunity for me to play international cricket due to South Africa's sports boycott and isolation. In 1991, there was unity between the so-called non-white and white cricket associations. At the time, I was captain of the South African under-23 team, under the non-white banner. And when I came here to this very stadium, I came for my first practice session, and the cricket nets at the time was right next to me on my right-hand side. And I remember arriving for the net practice at about 4 o'clock, donning my whites, warming up and getting ready to bat. And in those days, the cricket coaches would allow for our so-called white players to arrive after us and have the opportunity to practice before us. And then, not surprisingly, when the lights was fading and it was getting dark, the players of color were asked to put on their pads and go and bat in the fading light. And when we questioned the system, we were labeled as being troublemakers and not having discipline. And to be honest, that took away my love for playing cricket, and I focused more on my studies because I was still back at university studying medicine at the time. So although I wasn't an international sportsman, the fact that I had studied and qualified as a doctor allowed me to develop a special interest in sports medicine. So for a period of 4 years, 2003 to 2007, I was the traveling team doctor for the Proteas. And thereafter, from 2008 right till 2019, I was granted the privilege to be the South African cricket team manager as well as the Proteas. So cricket administration has occupied a large part of my life for the last 2 decades. And this iconic DP World Wonder Stadium that we are seated at used to be Gauteng Cricket Board. At one stage it was the Highveld Lions, and now it's the Central Gauteng Lions. So I've served on the board during various periods for close on to 15 years. I was chairman in 2004 and 5, and I served on the board of Cricket South Africa, and I'm currently the chairman and president here as well for the last year. And this has allowed me to give back to the sport that I've loved so much, that I serve so dearly. And at the same time, it allows us a window into the world of where the sport is going. When I joined the Proteas in the early 2000s, at that stage, literally the players of color would make up about less than 15 to 20% of the team. And what's been heartening is that over the years, that has changed. You've had players on merit that have come through and have represented our country with distinction. We look at Herschel Gibbs, Makaya Ntini, Hashim Amla, JP Dumini, and Kagiso Rabada, Themba Bavuma. They are world-class cricketers, and they've allowed for us to see that if people are given the opportunity to play this lovely game, that anything is possible. No country has been through what South Africa has, and no one needs inspiration like us as South African do. I think it's important to understand that yet there's still a lot needs to be done to bridge the gap between the racial inequality as well as the class inequality. But at the same time, and I've traveled all over the world, and I can tell you there's no place as home. The gees of our people is just phenomenal. The minute you land at OR Tambo, you just realize, shoo, I've missed this.
I'm Zainab Davidson, but everybody called me Patty or Auntie Patty. My eldest brother was the last person of color in Simonstown to be moved out of Simonstown, and that was 1975.
This house is originally my grandfather's house, and in 1969 we got a letter to say we're now in a white area and we have to give it up to the government. So 40 years ago, my aunt moved in and we put in a land claim, and we are still waiting for the land claim to be finalized.
But in the meantime, we took over, we rented the place at a very nominal rent. And then when I was here in Simonstown, I realized, God, all our people are gone. I'm the only, other than the Indian community, I'm the only person of color really that's here. Then I started looking for what had happened to the people of Simonstown. Who were they? Where did they go to? Who were the achievers? And before I knew it, it just grew and grew. And then I decided, I'm going to have a museum here.
I am Cherubin Emily, and I am the curator of Emily House. My aunt, Auntie Pat, she was the one to open the museum 30 years ago because she realized that there was a need for our history to be told. These are all the people of Simonstown. It was a vibrant community. Everybody lived together, played together, and worked together and socialized. When apartheid kicked in, everybody started moving out, and we lost track of families, friends. I was 6 years old when we moved to Grassy Park. Luckily, my dad had his own house built, but most of the people of Simonstown didn't have that luxury. They were taken out of their houses and put on a truck and sent to places like Ocean View, which is a township, crime-infested township. Many of them are still living there today. And it was a foreign country to me. It was mostly bush, gravel roads, and no family, no friends, and we had to adjust. Went to the schools, started meeting new friends. I was part of the struggle. I fought, I threw stones, I was part of the protest marches and all that. It was about 1985, 86, and then I found out my brother was locked up.
My name is Ikshan Amle. I'm the brother of Cherubin Amle, who is the curator of the Simonstown Heritage Museum. In 1985, there was a mass rally that was going to be held at Wynberg Senior Secondary in Ottery Road. When we got to Wynberg High, there was 1-2 Caspers just driving up and down, but the smell of tear gas was still fresh in the air. We ended up going into the school, and then one of the cops was standing there with one of those loudspeakers, loud hailers, and he said, "We have 3 minutes to disperse." And he said it in English, and he said it in Afrikaans. Jy het 3 minute om. And then from there we headed up Park Road. As we came down Park Road, the police was already in the vicinity. I headed to an area right next to this house where we're at now. The guys start putting tires out into the road as well, and they set it alight. Then I had a bag of petrol bombs which was self-made and manufactured it in the garage of our house without my parents knowing. Then one of the powder blue escort with 2 policemen came, and they drove into the tires, and I stood on the wall. I lit the petrol bomb and tossed it under the vehicle. I stood on this wall, and the escort was standing over there, and I tossed the petrol bomb. The first one I tossed under the vehicle, and then the gentleman tried to get out, and then he closed the door again, and then when I tossed the second one, the Caspers came down, and then they stopped over there. And then the police came out, the military police, security police, military police, the army guys. They got out of the vehicle, and then they ended up brandishing their firearms, and then people started scattering. They ran into the mosque, they ran up the road. When that happened, I ran through here, through this property, and I ran towards this house here. This was the only house I knew. Myself and approximately about 25 to 30 of us, we ran through the gates here and into the house. This is the house that we all ran into, and where we were arrested. As you can see over here, they kicked down the door, and a piece has just been fitted in here and is still standing after almost 40 years. And then we all ran, and we all ran down this passage into this room. All the other cops ran down the lane, and they realized that we were in the room, and then what they did was the one cop came, he opened up the window, and he put his hand through with the firearm in his hand. And when everybody saw the firearm, we all just scrambled for the door. And of the 30, the 20 was taken out, and they were beaten as they were removed out of the room, and the last 10 of us was arrested. I was 15 years old, and of the 7 of us that got sentenced, I was the youngest. We got sentenced in 1982, 6. Because of my age, and I was the only underage person, they waited for me to turn 18 in order for us to go and serve our time.
We know what our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents went through and suffered through. You know, it's all very well now. They can equal education, can live what they want, where they want, marry who they want, etc., etc. It's just normal life now. We didn't have a normal life.
My children could apply for any job which was available to them. Those years we couldn't. My grandchildren can compete in sports. My children also, they could compete in sports. And in many things that was barred for us. We couldn't, it was prohibited. You couldn't walk here, you couldn't swim there, you couldn't go to bioscopes, you couldn't. There's so many things that stopped us.
The activist who has been active during the struggle, the ones that has been detained, they should be recognized and acknowledged. And their history should be told. Our history should be told. And these are the stories that our youth of today need to understand and need to embrace.
People now are inclined to say, oh, leave it now, it's finished. How can it be finished? It's part of your history, it's part of who you are. You cannot move forward if you don't know what happened way back then. It was wonderful living in Time and Son. But now in retrospect, I realize what it could have been and what South Africa would have been now if we were given the opportunity those years ago.
I am Khotso Pudumo. I'm an oral history assistant at the National Museum in Bloemfontein. The Bantu Community Heritage Project is a project that the National Museum came up with to interview people who are the Bantu residents, and we are interviewing them regarding their life and things that happened in the time when they were living. For me, it was interesting because as an oral historian, a person that you interview, they share with you a part of their life, a part of them that you would never get anywhere besides sitting down and talking to that person. And in that project, we managed to meet up with Miss Sophia Sising.
I am Sophia, Madge, Rachel, Granny's a nickname. Muitsadi Madinti, Selebano, Okitsalwang. I was born here in Mangaung on the 17th September 1936. Our parents were staying at Vaihoek. Vaihoek is on the other side near town. I may say it's in town. So they were removed, forcibly removed. That's why they came to Batu location, Matlomola, Cape Stans. That's where they resided.
Your father here is nice and slender. Yeah. But here, it seems as if it is not
the same person.
The same person. He's very beautiful. But can you see here the nose there?
My mother wanted me to be a teacher, but I said no, I want to be a nurse. I had a passion to nurse people and to every time with people, to make people laugh, to make people happy. That's my passion. We were working at National Hospital. We were cycling to work. And there was a bridge there, a rail bridge. We had to lift up our bicycles and go over the bridge, go down, cycle again to work. There were no whites in our... We only nested black people. It was only black this side. On the other side, it was white. This side, it was black. It was a real segregation. Our parents had the Dom Massacre. No, we took it. No, I took Dom Pass. I don't know what year was it. I was 16 or 17 when I took my Dom Pass.
I'm looking at your Dom Pass here, and then it says it was done 58. It's 26 November 58.
When I took it.
How old were you?
22 then. If you don't have a Dom Pass, you'll be arrested. But I don't know how much were you charged. So the blood caps, we used to call them the blood caps because they had the flat caps, those police. They were walking around with bicycles around the location. You'll find them, a group of them. And if they see you, you'll be asked, where is your Dom Pass? She doesn't know it. I've never
a little bit because they used to have a pez, and then they put it inside when they go to work. They must hide it. I don't know why. They used to hide it, and then it will have a long string, and then they put it, and then inside the clothes.
Because the police wanted it to be outside with a string. So we were hiding it. We didn't want to put it right there. There was a string, it must hang. They should see it when they come back. There, he has got it, the Dom Pass. When the visitors come, they had to go via the office, get the permit to come and sleep here. Because the blood caps or the police, they used to raid the houses. Open up and look at who's sleeping here, who's sleeping here. If they find them, they will take them out. He will say, come, let's go. Stand up, they will stand. We are afraid of one policeman with a bicycle here. And they will collect all the people and take them to the offices. India. Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi slept at our place. The place was small. We took a little single bed and put it in the dining room where he slept, and there was a store outside, a storeroom outside where we took this dibata tsele tsa bogologolo tsele. That's a TP. We put a skerekere tsa metsi and a jug just to wash himself.
Hi, Tshepa. Fine, and you?
My name is Tshepa Mokhele. I'm the grandson of Mayor Sophia Sisi. I always tell them like it's good to live in a democratic country. You understand? Because we do not feel that segregation like them they used to do. So that's the positive about it. And now there was inequality in some of, especially for women. But now when you try to go into jobs and to be recorded, they tell you like we still need women. Women are not being empowered. So now there's a lot of women empowerment compared to back then.
It has changed. It had changed because we are now, you are choosing what you want to do. Because even my child, there she is, he has graduated so many times. He went to school, He went to school and there it is. He did whatever she wanted to do.
Some people that I've interviewed for the Liberation Heritage Project, they sometimes regret being in the forefront of the struggle because now they feel like they've wasted their life by fighting apartheid instead of trying to make a life for themselves within apartheid. But mostly, I feel like we've taken for granted the little things that happened in people's lives besides focusing on the big events or the ones that are commemorated.
I'm Pixie van Heerden. I'm 88 years old and I've been teaching just about all my life, since 1956. When I first started teaching, I was only about a year older than the girls that I was teaching. I had a very, very wonderful experience teaching at a school in Berg Street, Indian Girls' High School. There was one thing that did hurt, and that was because of the apartheid era, we had different staff rooms. So the staff room for the Indian teachers was over there, and our staff room was here. So we actually never really got to know each other. When I was teaching at the Indian Girls' High School, I tried to organize a netball match between my girls and GHS girls. GHS was so afraid of offending the apartheid laws or what trouble they might get into, that they refused. They refused to play against us. So it was very, very sad. I scooted around and I found a school in Nakopa. I think it was called Little Flower School, and a coloured school in Nakopa. So we travelled all the way to Nakopa and we played netball there. But that was my last experience teaching in a high school. And then I went to Cornwallis. And whilst I was at Cornwallis, we started accepting black children during the apartheid era. Our first pupil was Nhlanhla Dangwani. Nhlanhla was a bit of a clown. I loved him, but I think he was a naughty boy. There's no doubt about that. He was a naughty boy. But he was the beginning. Oh, yes, there was a white teachers association, and we were encouraged to join that. But of course, we threw our toys out the cot and refused to take any notice of it at all. I wanted my pupils to grow up as caring young men, courteous, kind, considerate, and loving. I doubt they remember me much at all, but I remember them because they were important to me. They were my life. there's a whole lot of things in the school that have changed dramatically since I was here in 1974. So this part didn't exist either. But it's wonderful now because we've got classrooms. Hello!
Just remember me, the pro. My name is Bonkosi Mazibogo. I was here at Cornwallis from 1987 to 1990.
You've gone, but since I saw you.
Well, before I went to Cornwallis, I was at a township called Lamontville, just off of Emobeni in Durban. Going to Cornwallis was a bit of a culture shock because of the integration. The change in language, the personnel, the people, the melting pot.
Bonkosi, tell me a little bit about what it was like when you came to Cornwallis.
The language thing was quite challenging, to be honest with you.
It must have been.
Yes, because for the first time ever, we had to speak English like 24/7. And the staff made sure that we were kind of on track with that, which helped in our favor because after maybe 2-3 months, things got a lot better. My pro taught me Afrikaans primarily and the scriptures a little bit as well. But just wanted to say this, she's taught me a lot more than that, far more than that.
You really are such a sweet thing. Oh, Bongani!
My name is Bongani Mazibogo. I was at the school between 1987 and 1990. Before I do remember, go back to 1987, you taught me Afrikaans. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
But it's not only about that. It's more about the love, the respect, the values, the manners. That is what sticks out.
Oh, bless your heart.
Bless you very much.
Thank you. I used our scripture lessons for moralizing. I'm afraid I largely departed, especially later on, I just turned Christianity into a philosophy of love. And with the philosophy of love came consideration for other people and kindness.
I don't think you can put it into words. I think it's phenomenal. And she is love personified, I would say. And she's a real inspiration. The only thing I feel that people like that are just no more anymore. And we need to hang on to her, people like that. She's an absolute treasure.
I mean, she basically grounded us. And that is something that you sort of carry with you. Yeah, so she played a huge role.
At an early age, you get to see that people are actually the same. If you're given the right opportunity, they can achieve anything. So if you work together, absolutely, there's hope for our country.
I think the world can actually learn a lot from us. What I love about South Africa is we can turn something negative into something positive.
When I woke up this morning, what did I see in the paper? The best birthday present ever. South Africa has been voted as the friendliest place on earth. In all my years of teaching, I have seen so much change, and it's all been changed for the better. There's still a lot of work to be done, but there's a lot of hope about what's going to take place in the future.